Welcome to Built for Love, a podcast about dating with intention, loving with purpose, and navigating relationships with depth. Each episode, we break past what no longer serves us and get clear on what we truly need in love. Welcome to the path back to you, to love, to self, to truth. Because love isn't something we chase, it's something we're built for. Hey there, you beautiful souls. Welcome to Built for Love. I'm your host, Javier Ortega. When I first started thinking about this podcast, one of the first people who came to mind was Yvonne. We've had many conversations about dating, breaking it down from different perspectives and experiences. Yvonne is a 46-year-old dad of teenagers, balancing work, fatherhood, and dating. His perspective provides insight into the realities of dating as a man in his 40s, navigating connection, attraction, and intention while juggling career and family life. This episode is a must listen for men in this age group and for women who want to understand how men in their 40s think about love and relationships. All right, so let's get into it. Yvonne, thank you for being here. Are you currently seeing anyone or are you in the dating pool, and how's that going for you?
Well, I'm not currently seeing anyone, but I am open for dating. I am in the dating pool, and I think that that's what this conversation will help people understand, and myself understand
Right.
what we're doing and what we need to do.
Right. I personally am a huge fan of how mature Yvonne sees dating, but how he's able to articulate so well, right? Because he has a good understanding of his needs and desires. So, Yvonne, how would you describe the dating scene right now from your perspective, and what's been the biggest challenge?
I mean, I think that uh, the dating scene right now, it seems a little bit desperate,
Okay.
in a sense of a lot of people wanting a lot of things, but what makes it challenging is those people not being able to provide what they're asking for.
Mm.
People are asking for long-term relationships that they perhaps are not ready or they cannot offer, because I've come across people that they're still not divorced
Wow.
or just separated. So how can you ask for something like that, a long-term relationship, when you're not even legally able to provide something like that?
Right.
So I think that it creates a little bit of desperation, and it shows uh, potential partners that are not ready, or they understand what it takes to be ready. Which it forces you to navigate this environment with some caution,
Mm.
and sometimes with some apprehension of what is going to happen, because you only have to go by what people are telling you, and you
Hmm.
kind of have to discover a lot of things on your own.
But it sounds like a lot of people are just looking to just have somebody that jump right into it, like you say. It's coming from this desperate place of we've had conversations like, don't go food shopping when you're hungry, because you're just trying to, you know.
Your judgment gets impaired,
Right,
right?
right, exactly.
So I mean, I think that it's understandable, right? They could be either single for a long time, and sometimes we feel that we can manage everything on our own. A very common word that is utilized today is I'm independent,
Mm.
and to me that can create separation. But you get tired, and people want to share those accomplishments, or they want to share memories with someone, and they decide to do it, and they think that it will happen overnight, and
Right.
that creates that sort of hunger or desperation, or they're in a bad relationship or coming out of one that is bad, and they want to jump right in because they want to have, some comfort, and it confuses themselves and perhaps the other person that they're meeting.
two things come to my two things I want to I guess move towards or point out. So you said this independent thing, creating some separation. What do you mean by that? Can you expand on that?
Yeah, so independence, uh think about it like, eh, you working for a corporation, right? And then you realize, um I could do all of this on my own. So
Mm,
you decide to break away from this group, right? That is a corporation, and you want to go and do this on your own terms. So you're no longer want to be part of that environment. So when I hear I'm independent, you're telling me that you don't want to integrate. And the idea of a relationship is two individuals coming together. Perhaps what people want to say is, I'm self sufficient, which is different than being
right.
independent. And I think that for today's standards, being self sufficient is a minimum requirement if you're an adult. Having a job, being able to have a car and pay for yourself, uh, it is expected, right? And we're going to join forces. We're going to come together in a relationship as partners. That doesn't happen when you're an independent. The word itself, it tells you, I'm all by
Right.
myself. I'm here, but I'm not part of you.
Right.
I like to say it's like the kid that comes to the playground. He said, "These are my toys," and he wants to play in the same sandbox as the rest of the kids. So right there, it makes it difficult
Right.
because you're telling me, I don't want to be part of you. I want to be there, but not with you. So if you think about it, then what do you become? You perhaps become another accessory of their accomplishments, right? And these are the people that tell you, I've accomplished all of this, right? Because also I'm not looking to date someone that is 20 years younger than me. I try to date someone that is comparable to me. So things are more or less equal. So if you don't want to be part of it, or if we're not canceling things out because we have the same offerings, you're saying that you're independent, you're separating,
Mm,
So when am I important? Only when it's convenient to you? When you're done doing everything else that you want to do on your own, and then now, okay, let me pick up this accessory that I have and I'm going to spend time with them. So
right.
so I pay attention to that. When someone said, oh, I'm independent, then I'm like, well, maybe we're not going to connect, because you are telling me from the very beginning that you don't want to integrate, right? You when you want to integrate, you share what you have.
Right.
So that's the way I see the word independence, and I think that from the get go, it creates an incompatibility if
Okay.
you're looking for a relationship.
I mean, I think too, it's like people can have the, and this is just to look at this from a different angle. People can have their own definition of any word, right? And so for someone, independent can just mean, I am very like whole, I am very complete, I am very um mature to be able to like jump into a relationship. But at the same time, to your point, a lot of people don't use independent that way. A lot of people are using independent to like look for validation, whether they know it or not, because I did it at some point. I did it where I was really trying to point out how independent I was. But at the same time, that goes even deeper, right? Because you're trying to seek validation for this, but at least for me, this is my experience. I'm trying to seek validation of being independent, of being whole, of being complete, of being able to like, hold my own. And just because you're in a relationship doesn't mean you can't. But at the same time, I was also getting in my own way of like properly just integrating and receiving as well, or trying to give with the intention of look at me. It's a very interesting thing how independent has become such a common word in the dating pool.
Yeah, I mean, it has become almost like a flex, right?
Right.
And I think of the conversation is perhaps to present what a male my age comes across. So imagine, this is for the ladies to think about. If you meet a guy and he comes in and he says, "Well, I'm independent. I have a job. I can, take care of myself. I have a car. I could do this." You're gonna look at him and you're gonna be like, "So, it's expected of you. I'm doing
Right.
it." So it almost becomes a double standard. But then at the same time, we're in the age of equality. So when does equality becomes equal, right? And also that's another term too, right? So equality also doesn't mean the same, right? I believe that males and females, we have equal opportunities, but we're not the same. And the same goes for even gender to gender, right? Uh, we're not the same. We're all different. We all have strengths. We'll have weaknesses. And I think that when you trying to come into a relationship, is saying, "Look, here's what I bring, and here's who I am as a whole." This whole idea of like I'm looking for my other half, that is all mentality.
Mm-hmm.
You have to come in as your whole, how you carry yourself, how you take care of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and say, "Look, this is what I have. These are my tools." And the other person should come with the same approach if you're looking to come together. Because we're going to do an inventory of the tools. We're going to do an inventory of our capabilities. We're going to do an inventory of our capacities. And you cannot just blindly go, "Well, we're 50-50." If there is an inequality of things, you're going to have to uh, leverage each other's strengths to be able to compensate for an overall weakness, right? If you're going to come together as a unit, the unit or the chain is only as strong as the weakest link.
Right.
So if you don't understand what you bring, then you can expect that the other person is going to know. You have to be able to verbalize what you're good at, what you're not good at, and be open. Be honest. I say to people, I said, "Show me who you are and not what you think I'm going to like." Because then I would draw a conclusion on something that is not there. And if you're thinking on long term, that is not sustainable. You may be able to put up a front for a date or two, but if your intentions are to date, for many years, it gets tiring. You can't be coming up with this character every time. At some point, this character is gonna fail.
Yep.
So I think that it's important on the definitions, and perhaps the last thing of definitions that I've learned to inquire about is the term separated. I've come to see that there's many definitions of what being separated means. So I do ask the question when I hear I'm separated, and I ask to define what that means
I
to
like
them
that. I like that.
to see if it matches with my understanding of separation, right? I'm not going to get into what it is or it isn't. I'm just going to draw my conclusion. I said, "Your definition is not the same as mine. Was nice meeting you." And we just move on.
Mm, well, that's a good one. Wow. No, I like that. And again, there's like several words that stick out. Now, have you experienced any dates where like people are saying, "I'm this, I'm that," or maybe "I'm independent," and then maybe they don't offer to split the check, or they don't offer to have some type of equality, or anything like that? Have you any experiences?
Wow. I mean, that is that is a touchy subject, right? Because I think that men, we are expected to, to
Right.
pay. It depends on the culture. I mean, other places, it is not like that. I think they have gotten past that. For example, in Europe, I think that if you go on a date with a woman, they're not going to hesitate to offer. to pay for their half. Um, and here is, I would say, is maybe a 70-30, where
Mhm.
we are expected to pick up the tab, for one reason or another. And you hear all kinds of explanations, like, oh, well, I took the time, and I got ready, and all that kind of stuff. And to me, when I hear something like that, is like, well, if you're giving a value for your time, right? So if I invite you somewhere, and I don't know, for drinks, I don't know, well, what is the cost of two drinks? So you're telling me that is your rate per hour, or per half hour, whatever the date is long. So it's irrelevant, right? I said I would never invite someone to uh, a place that I cannot afford.
Right.
But the thing to understand about men is intention and effort. If you don't offer to pay for yourself, I'm ready to pay. Like I said, it's something that it has been expected for a long time. But you do perhaps see where the person is coming from, right? If they said, "Hey, here's my card," and I go, "No, I it's on me," then it is because I want to, not because I'm
Right.
obligated. And this is something that I teach my daughter. My daughter is of dating age, and I always tell her, I said, if you go on a date, always pay for your share. That way, then there is no wrong expectations from anyone. And now, if the boy wants to pay, then let him pay. But you are letting know that you are capable of yourself.
Right.
So, but like I said, I think it's a change of the culture. I think there's a lot of influence from social media. You hear, you see some ridiculous things, that some guys are even paying for nails and hair and all that kind of stuff. So, there's nothing as such as a free lunch. So what comes with that price tag, right? We have our own time. Our time is valuable as well. And just because you are inviting, it is assumed that you pay. It's conflicting, right? Because let's look at the dating world or dating apps. You see a whole list of requirements that ones have to meet. And one of them, in a lot of the instances, is show intention. So if I invite someone to meet for a coffee, for a drink, or for dinner, I'm taking the lead, right? I'm being asked to be masculine, which is also another thing. Is another conflicting thing. You don't know when you can and cannot be masculine. What masculine is. Uh, so if I show that intention, then I'm automatically on the hook for a bill. And like I said, the bill is irrelevant, but it is intention, right? So you say, "Hey, I want to pay." It's the same thing. I'm used to, or I'm from the era where I would open the door for a place, or for the car. And it's a little bit difficult nowadays, because now cars, you don't even have to do anything. But if I open the door for you, and I close the door in my car, what would be the expected part of the other person to do? Perhaps the expected thing to do is for the person to reach over and perhaps open the door for you. So it is equal.
Right.
It's equal amount of effort, right? We ask for equality.
Right.
So the intentions and the actions have to match,
Right.
not be lopsided just because one is of a particular gender.
Right. And
So I pay attention to those things. It has nothing to do with being machista, or being patriarchy. But if I'm at a restaurant, and I'm pulling the chair for you, I'm pulling the chair so you can sit. Perhaps the next step, or maybe that's the etiquette that people needs to learn when it comes to these expectations of between genders, right? Because like I said, I when I read these profiles, there's a whole lot of expectations just for the fact that I'm a male. So then where are the expectations for a female in my
Right.
case, right? You ask me if I do all of that at a restaurant, perhaps when the food comes in or appetizers is you're going to serve my plate. Some people can say like, whoa, well, we're not servants anymore. Well, so then where do you get the idea of us having to open the door, pick you up, or do all these kind of things? It comes from the old mentality. Because if you move to the present, then everyone is independent. Everyone is capable. So then you should be able to open up your own door. Perhaps you should be able to get yourself to the place, seat yourself, take care of your coat and everything else.
Right.
If something dangerous happened, well, you should be able to fight the same way that I can fight. Right. So it's where are the boundaries of equality, right? Of
Yeah, right.
expectation. So
Right.
you see, it's ridiculous.
Right. So
It's funny.
let me ask you, do you enjoy being, opening the door? Do you enjoy? Yeah.
Of course, because it, it doesn't come from a place of obligation,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Uh, it is in nature, to do these kind of things. You see it, I don't know, in Discovery Channel. You see the male birds putting all these display of,
Yeah.
gallantries and, and ability to be able to mate with another bird. But when you look at the female bird, she's like a monotone color, and you see this flamboyant, male doing
Right.
this whole thing just so they could get. So that's our equivalent.
Right.
Those are the things that, and I think that it feels good. It is almost like a dance.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you do this, you do that. So imagine if you're gonna go dancing and and because there is no expectations to woman, they just you have this rigid person there that is not moving at the rhythm, right? If you have if you have chemistry, if you have a connection, there's a rhythm. You vibrate at the same frequency. And all the steps go with each other. So if I'm gallant or if I'm, being attentive and I have initiative, the least that you can expect is the same back.
Right.
But people are too concerned with fitting into a stereotype or to a box of what social media is saying that they're not focusing on really getting to know the other person or even getting to know themselves. Like we said earlier, they don't know what they have to offer.
So for our listeners, if you haven't picked up on it, so I'd love to ask these questions specifically too, because for me, I'm a gay man and Ivan's straight. So it's like sharing the perspective is very different because he's showing up in in this process, in this journey with looking for a female. And for me, it's looking for a male. So it does kind of certain things with equality or independence, stuff like that shifts. It shows up a little differently when it's two males,
There's different
right?
expectations, I would
Right,
say.
right,
Yeah.
or like two females. But you bring up intention a lot, right? Do you feel like most men date with true intention, or do they date based on attraction first and figure it out later?
Uh, that's a good question. And I mean, I'm not dating men, so it would be hard for me to say that if they come in with intentions or not. But I do hear the stories from people that I connect with,
Hmm.
or sometimes I feel that I have to mend the actions of others, so I can get an idea of perhaps intention. I think that there's a big percentage of perhaps guys that uh, their intention is just to, I don't know, have a good time with someone. But I think that those that are seriously looking, they are with all intentions.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
mean, 100%. And that's kind of the thing that I would say for the vast majority of guys, it takes a while to, let's say, commit. But when they commit, and you see it in their behaviors, um, they're fans of, one baseball team, one football team, good
Right.
or bad. They're there. They're not jumping ship.
Right.
You see the guys that
Yeah.
have, loyalty to this one team that has not won a championship in 50 years. And
That's
you
true
see them
though.
buying the jerseys, and this year is going to be the year. They always have that enthusiasm and that hope. So they're committed for life. You see the guy that's committed to, maybe to that college, sweatshirt that it should have been thrown
Right.
away, and they still believe that
Right.
it still fits them. So I think that that's when it comes with the intention. And I think that actions are going to speak louder than words. You
Right.
could, and again, this part perhaps is for the ladies to pay attention. Is that intention what we're talking about? Uh, Put down the walls. If a guy is intentionally, asking you out,
Right.
or asking you questions, so perhaps they can ask you out, answer the questions. Sometimes, like, eh, some of these profiles, like I said, it's just, you know, don't ask me how my day is or how my weekend. Those are simple phrases to start a conversation. I cannot start a conversation with someone that I don't know. I don't know what you're into in the
Mhm.
weekends. So I got to ask you, hey, how was your weekend? Did you do anything fun?
Right.
And then let you explain to me what fun is for you, so I can gather the information
Right.
and understand. I cannot put everything on a profile or expect me to read this whole profile and understand who you are, or establish a conversation about something that is going to interest you, because I don't know what interests you.
Right.
And I think that those people, I would say, clutter the dating pool, because they come in abrasive, and they
Right.
don't leave room for someone to be intentional.
Right. Right. No, I find that too. Like on the other side of that, and as far as gay dating, a lot of the apps are hookup apps. There's apps for men where it's just like, you're not if you're looking to date seriously, that's not where you go.
Well, I mean, I think that in the end, this um, method of meeting people is a very lucrative business.
Mhm.
So they're intentionally created that way.
Right.
I think that the algorithms for all of these apps uh, do a lot of manipulation of who gets to see who, or who matches with who.
Mm.
And but I see it as the lottery, right?
Mhm.
You get the person that goes and plays $1. Well, I think it's $2 nowadays, and they win the jackpot.
Right.
And you get the people that go and spend hundreds of dollars in the lottery every week, and they don't win. So I think that whether you pay or you don't pay on the apps, I think that the process of meeting someone is the same. The app is not going to vet that for you.
Right. No, yeah. You got a point there. So speaking of apps, if dating apps allowed you to create 3 custom filters to find your ideal match, what would they be for you?
Well, I think that I don't see it so much as a filter. I mean, I think that some of them have a million filters, and
Right,
and
right.
people ignore all of them, or they pick
That's
too
true.
many.
That's
And
true.
maybe the filters can play against you,
Mm,
right?
mhm.
Because you got to think about the state of mind that you were when you created that profile.
Right. It could be limiting.
right? So you may be missing or on a potential match. But the one thing that I would like these apps to have, and I'm sure that they may not be interested on, is to have people complete a personality test.
Oh, that would be cool. Almost like, yeah, there's a lot out there. Like love languages.
Yeah, I mean, like I think that even these happen. Like corporations, make employees,
Right.
take personality assessments, right? Because depending on the job, you have to work in a team, right? You're not dating the people, but you spend significant amount of time with these people, and you have to be compatible.
Yep.
And I think that compatibility is an important part of a relationship, right? We have a connection, chemistry, and compatibility.
Hmm.
The connection and the chemistry, it, it happens a whole lot more often than compatibility.
Can you expand on what connection and chemistry mean to you?
Sure. I mean, I think that, the connection, in the topic of apps, you can get a sense of even with the first messages, right? How the interaction is, how the response is, right? But I say that just having a connection through text messages, it is a little bit superficial because you have time to think, right? When you
Mm-hmm.
get a message, I got time to process the comments or the question or what the other person said. And maybe they say something that I don't know, I don't understand. I got time to Google it. So
Gotcha.
when you see that interest, right? Because it goes back to intention and interest. There's people that perhaps love to collect likes or matches or whatever it is, and they never communicate. They never talk. They never said anything. You send
Right.
them a, hey, how are you? Nice connecting with you. And then they'll respond to you a week later. Hi.
Right.
What kind of connection you're going to create with someone that responds every 7 days with, a two-letter word?
Right. Right.
So that right there, there's no connection. But if you you can establish that back and forth. I think that it's important to test the connection in a real scenario. And that could be on a phone call, that could be on a video call, or actually go meet the person. Because having a conversation is real time. I could make a comment, I can um, react a certain way, and that will come across in a conference call. I mean, in a phone call or in a video call, and nothing is better than in actual real life. You could
Mhm.
see, how the person moves, reacts, how they roll their eyes, if they do or they don't, how engaged they are when you're talking to them.
Right.
So to me, that is the connection, and that is what is going to have or create that ability of exchanging between the two. If from the very beginning you meet someone and you can't talk, you meet this person that they ask you a question, and when you're gonna go answer they interrupt you, then the communication is not gonna be there,
Right.
right? If the person is not listening to what you're saying and they're not trying to understand what you're saying, then the connection it starts to deteriorate. Or just it's just not gonna be there.
Right.
And then chemistry comes in many ways. I mean, I think that it can come from how someone behaves, whether or not they're engaging, they're looking at you, their body posture. There's a lot of truth in all the things that they said. If someone is with their arms crossed or they're, exposed what is considered vulnerable areas of their bodies is saying that they're welcoming you. And and touch, is very important. You could have a conversation, you have a laugh, and the person reaches out and they touch, your arm or your back.
Mm.
Those are things that it is communicating that there's chemistry, right? Because you're not
Right.
rejecting either the proximity or the physical contact of someone. When you don't like someone, and you don't see that chemistry, you could see it as soon as that person walks in the room. You're like, nah.
Right.
And the whole vibe changes. Even the connection changes. You could have been very forward when you were text messaging or even on a phone call. When you see that person for the first time and it's not what you expected or what you wanted, you kind of take a step back. But if
Mhm.
it's, if it is something that you like, that is only going to grow, from there, that
Right.
chemistry. And I think that one thing escalates to to the next.
Right.
If you accept that proximity or perhaps that physical contact, odds are that you're gonna kiss the person and you're gonna discover. I think that the more physical you become, the more you're going to learn about the person and about yourself, how you feel when you're with them.
Right. Like I always explain chemistry also as like the five senses, right? Like there's different ways to approach chemistry, but sometimes you'll be kissing somebody and it just doesn't feel right or it doesn't taste right. And then you try to go as far as like sleeping with them and then you're like, okay, I'm really not into it. That's all chemistry too. It's like the way somebody tastes, the way somebody smells, the sounds they make.
Yeah, I mean the interaction. I think that it's
Right.
important, and I think that again is on what you're looking for. I think that if you're looking for a long-term relationship, I think that you want to be as fulfilled as you can be with that person in all these different aspects,
Right.
right? Because um, I don't want to say that there's no going back, but you don't want to put in a significant amount of effort for something that you perhaps know that you can't uh, live with or compromise,
Right.
or say, well, I'm willing to forego this because everything else is that great. But there's certain things that it just need to flow naturally. And I think that chemistry is one of those. The chemistry to me is a non-negotiable. I think that it is either there or it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
You can stroke that fire. I mean, I think that the fire that it gets started, it starts from those sparks, right? And those
Right.
sparks come from that initial connection, from that chemistry between the two of them, right? And then you care for that fire afterwards,
Mm-hmm.
and the things that a longer term is the compatibility. You cannot expect everything to be perfect. There's got to be some things that you have to be willing to work together
Right.
and compromise. I think that people that don't have the understanding that you will need to do a lot of compromise in a relationship, then they just don't get it, because it's not going to be your way.
Right.
And if it's your way, then you have someone that either they just don't care, or you cannot expect anything from them, because everyone is going to want something.
Mm-hmm.
And in any scenario, in a negotiation, you cannot go with the mindset that everything is just gonna go your way.
Right.
You gotta understand that the other person is there to win too. And one thing that I've learned is that it's important to go with uh, a mindset of winning, but I think you also need to understand how much are you willing to lose to get
Mm.
there.
Right. I mean, it's not easy. Like relationships are work.
Yeah.
They're work. And through that work you do grow. But yeah, no, I definitely resonate with what you're saying.
Yeah, it is a lot to consider,
Yeah.
and I think that it gets perhaps a little bit more involved, I would say, when you get older. I don't remember having any of these thoughts when I was younger. I was in
Right.
my 20s. It was just like, I like her and I'm going after her, and that's it.
When
And then
when
you pay the consequences.
when it comes to compatibility, are there things that you've also learned like are like no's for you? Like, I can compromise and stuff like that. But are there any, like for example, for me, um, I've been in relationships with people long enough to like I can't do road rage anymore. Like to be in a car with somebody who has road rage, like there's just never I'm that's just not me. and there's never peace in that, or maybe somebody who's just like very moody, like it's very there's not a lot of room for me to be compatible with that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the road rage is a hard no for me, but is there anything for you that you feel like is a no?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I come to understand things that are important in compatibility, right? And I think that having common goals is very important.
Mhm.
And why do I say that? Is because there is in a relationship there is a level of romance which is important and is great, but it cannot be all of it.
Right.
You hear a lot, oh, opposites attract. That doesn't work in a relationship. That only works in electronics. But it
Batteries.
takes it takes a lot to keep yourself motivated. It takes a lot of effort to fight your own demons,
Mm,
to be someone that uh somebody else is gonna want, and you be someone that you can offer. So now imagine trying to be with someone that wants to go in a complete opposite direction as the direction that you want to go.
right.
You don't go anywhere.
Right.
You
Grow
spend
apart.
all your energy trying to convince someone that does not want to be where you want to be, which kind of relates to the whole independent, right?
Mhm.
You met someone from the very beginning that you knew that were independent, or you met someone from the very beginning that you understand that is a complete opposite of you. They don't want to be like you. They don't want to do the things that you do. They don't react the way that that you react. So you're always going to have to overcome that. And it
Right.
gets tiring over time.
Right.
So um, I pay attention, and I pay attention to those behaviors as you describe. I value my peace a lot. I'm not
Right.
looking to be with someone that is conflictive, someone that is not happy on their own. I'm not responsible for anyone's happiness.
That
I'm
right
also
there.
I'm not responsible to mend someone else's insecurities. And those are things that perhaps are the incompatible things.
Mhm.
If someone is overly jealous and insecure because of their previous experiences, I had nothing to do with that.
Right.
And if you have not worked that out yourself to come complete to a new relationship, I fully understand that there's nothing that I can do to fill that void.
Right.
And the same goes for me. I can be policing someone 24/7 for them not to do something, because when someone wants to do something, they will do it. And that goes to, with the connection. If someone wants to call you or message you or be there for you, they will. People make time for what they want to make time.
Mhm.
So you could see that all throughout the process. Like I said, hey, you connect, you match with someone and you say, hey, how are you? And this person responds to you a week later with a hi. Then the person shows you their intentions, and their level of wanting to be with you. They could come up, oh, I was so busy. And I'm like, listen, you're not running the country,
Right.
so, uh, you have time to post, your Starbucks, order in Instagram, but you couldn't send me a hello, so,
Right.
I
Right.
think that those are the, perhaps my compatibility lookouts,
Okay.
that, from people.
I like that. Lookouts. You brought up earlier how when you were younger, you didn't pay attention to chemistry. I'm sorry, connection, chemistry, and compatibility, the three C's. Um, so I know that you were married.
Yes.
How long has it been since you
It's been 5 years now.
5 years? Okay, so looking back at yourself 5 years ago, how have your own standards or approach to to dating changed since then?
Well, I mean, you know, one thing that I learned, and something that I pay attention to today as I date people that are equal to me is how long have they been divorced,
Mm,
right? Because relationships end way before you actually get to the point of getting divorced, and that is
right.
one thing. But for one reason or another, you're still linked to that, and you need some time to process and, let's say, heal that, right? Depending on the length of time that you were married, you're gonna have to relearn to live on your own, to understand, what do I like? How do I behave by myself? If you're married, I don't know, for 12, 15 years, you were making decisions with someone else.
Hmm.
Is way different making a decision on your own, when you
Right.
don't have to ask. You're not hearing an opinion, good or bad, or, you do whatever you want. And that can be overwhelming, right? Because it is freedom. And that freedom can also blind you on your decision making. You think you're ready to go, and you start meeting people and dating people, and then you realize that you're still carrying a lot of baggage,
Hmm.
or you don't see the red flags from the other person because you're going too fast.
Right.
You're just like, this caged animal that he just was let go, and you're just like taking everything as much as you can, and then you don't pay attention to those non-negotiables, those incompatible trades. So 5 years from then until now, I'm more aware. I'm more relaxed, and I'm not just taken by the shiny object.
Right.
Now I try to understand, is that real gold or fool's gold? Not
Mm,
everything that shine is gold.
right.
So, and just like using the gold analogy, if you want gold, you gotta dig, you gotta get dirty, you gotta put the time, and not every pan is gonna give you gold. And I think that that's the dating scene is,
Right.
you have this prospect of land that you're gonna go and look for gold.
I love that. I love everything that you just said. I relate to it so much. I was in an 11-year relationship, and right after I got out of that relationship, I was very proud of myself. I felt like I was very much ready to be in the right relationship, right? The compatible relationship. And 4 months later, when I put myself out there today, ended up getting into a relationship, and I completely thought I was ready. I completely thought I knew what it was to be in a relationship and what it was to hold a relationship and to put work into a relationship. But what I learned very quickly is that I was also trying to show up as that version of myself in this, right? And I learned that one, when you do end up in a relationship with someone else, or even just dating, you kind of meet a different version of yourself based off of them. When they react to something, how do you react, or how does that make you feel? What comes up? Everybody's got their own thing and their own way of approaching life. And so for me, I learned very quickly. I happened to go into this like profound relationship, and I realized I wasn't ready for it. I was not ready for it. There's a lot of me getting in my own way, and I say that, a lot of me getting in my own way because I was also presented with a version of myself that I didn't recognize. There was a lot of um, different insecurities or things that came up being with this person that didn't come up with the other person, right? So after, even through the 11 years. And so um, after that relationship ended, I didn't have an appetite to date because I realized that I didn't really know um, what was what I needed, right? I knew what I desired,
Hmm.
but those are two different things. I remember one of the things he told me was, "No, you're good for me, but you're also good for everyone. Like, that's how I am as a person. And I realized like, but I haven't been putting that effort into myself. So for the next months, I did what I stood still,
Mm.
and I had to really get to know myself and like you said, heal. And even as I began dating, like you said, you get to this point where you learn more about yourself. But you get to this point where you realize like there's no rush. Like relationships are a lot bigger than what most people kind of see them as, right? It's not necessarily a have to do, it's a get to do because of the amount of effort that you have to put in there. And so I'm still in the process of getting to know myself even through this dating process, but I kind of had to just be like there's no way I can do that again because I thought I knew who I was, and then I was presented with a whole different version of myself. And then with that, that triggered a lot of things that I realized I needed to heal within myself. So I wasn't taking, the things that didn't work in a previous relationship into the next one.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what makes it difficult in any, I would say, relationship, regardless of gender, is the idealization of what a good relationship is. And let's take marriage, for example, right? We have all been sold this idea that you married someone until you die.
Mhm.
And there is no explanation for what to expect. And I think that is very um, unrealistic to expect that two people are not going to change over time, that their priorities aren't going to change, that their wants aren't going to change, that their likes aren't going to change, and that perhaps the person that it may be needed to walk through a path, it may not be the same person that you thought 10
Right.
years ago,
Yeah, I mean,
5 years ago.
right.
So people like to hold on to, well, we've been married for 10 years, and and they think that like having a thought of like, I don't feel the same way about this person or about this relationship, and want to put love into one category. Love comes in many different ways. The love you have for your children is completely different from the love that you have for your parents.
Mm,
Is the love that you have for your pet or your shoes, not for your partner, right? At a different age in your life, you thought that you love this particular clothing style. You got older, and now you look back and you think it was ridiculous.
right.
So I think that decisions are made based on the information and at the time that you take them. So you're young, you meet someone, and you think that this is the person, you make this big commitment, you make this huge decision, mostly because it's to meet somebody else's expectations, your parents, society, religion, what a culture, whatever it is that is heavily influencing you to take that huge of a leap. So you come out of these long-term relationships either with a lot of learnings or with a lot of baggage or traumas or whatever it is. And at least for me, I come to understand that um, what is important, right? Is it the length of the relationship or the quality of it, or how good the relationship was?
Right.
Because I mean, I'll tell you, you ask me today, I'll probably value a whole lot more a shorter relationship that is great than one that is long and miserable. And then perhaps for today too is, what is considered a long-term relationship anymore? What is the definition of a long-term relationship anymore?
Right.
So I think
Yeah.
that whatever the relationship is, if it's good, then enjoy it. live it for its potential, because one or the other, if not both, are going to change, or life sometimes gets on the way, and you have to end it. And not every breakup is a heartbreak. I think that we ourselves break our own hearts by creating these huge expectations of something that is not there. I think that I explained this one time, in my mind, is that you meet someone, and if you were to plot how you feel about someone in a chart, this person, right, it's on the x-axis and you are on the y-axis. And at zero time, you already have this person pegged at 100%. And as time goes by, because you're already at the max, what happens when you reach the max? The only possible thing to happen is to start to go down. And as time goes by, you start seeing that line to go down. Now you get worried because you're like, what happened? We're not where we used to be. And then now every effort that you put in is trying to get that relationship to that point.
Mm,
And it's not gonna stay there. You may have a spike and you come back down. And it's all relevant to time and to what is occurring between the two. You cannot control the other person.
right.
So the outcome of that data point, it has to do with the two of you. It's not just one person. So sometimes we have to think about it the other way. Is we'll start from zero, and as time goes by, we'll start to build
Right.
into that, and gain the most that you can. And then you could clearly see it, if it's a 1 year, 2 year, and then you could see how far you got. And sometimes that's all there is.
All right. See, this is why I love having these conversations with you, though, because you have such an expansive outlook on relationships and dating, and it just blows my mind how much information you keep coming out with that I'm like, yeah, we have to talk about this. But yeah, that's there's a lot of truth in that, and I think that that's a huge thing. It's about quality over quantity.
Yeah.
um that's really where I think that fulfillment lies. Love has its levels, right? Sometimes you feel in love, sometimes you don't. But when you lose respect, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a huge focus on love,
Right.
and people overlook the reality, right? Real
Right.
life. And love is just one component, and for the most part is something that you feel, because there's no guarantee that the other person is going to love you.
Mm-hmm.
So you could go into a relationship and fall in love with the other person, and that is okay. That is your feeling. You're entitled. Is your right to fall in love. But you also have to understand that just because you fall in love doesn't mean that the other person has to fall in love with you. They
Right.
can still care for you deeply, but everyone is different in how they love and how they fall in love, or what they consider love.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. If there was anything that you maybe could thank, um what do men secretly wish women understood about them when it comes to dating and relationships?
Uh, I mean, I guess, since I'm representing. No, I mean, I think that,
Or for you,
no,
like,
I mean, I think in general, and I think we kind of touched about this earlier. When a guy is interested, he's going to let you know. His actions are going to uh, dictate, and they're going to show you right what his intentions are. But I think what women need to understand is that it's not that we don't care, like your accomplishments and all that kind of stuff. We understand that it's important, and we sympathize.
mhm,
But I think that men in the end, they want to be respected. and they want to be admired, and they want affection, because those are three things that, for the most part, you cannot give yourself, right? Because respect is earned. You cannot go buy respect. You earn respect.
Right.
You could fall in love with many people, but you respect a few. And when you respect someone, you love them, and you don't question the love that you feel for someone that you respect. When you admire someone, is because you're no longer looking at them with your eyes. You're looking at them from your heart.
Mm.
So that is what uh, men aspire to get. We do that since we're children. We start with our parents, right? When we go, hey, look, daddy, no
Wow.
hands, right? We want
Yeah.
to be admired, right? Look, we're doing something, we're accomplishing something. It may not mean anything to you, but understand that it means something for us. You hear the
Wow.
joke about the dating, the guy with the fish in the application. And you said, yes. I mean, personally, I would never put a picture with a fish.
Yeah.
But, but what that guy is saying is like, hey, look, I did this. And you don't have to like it. He's not asking you to go fishing, but he's sharing something that perhaps he likes. And it's an
Wow.
accomplishment. It's not easy to fish. Trust me, I tried. I've taken my son and my kids to go fishing, and we never catch anything. And so if they are accomplishing something, big or small, right? It might be insignificant to you being a fish, and you may admire the guy that is sitting, on the hood of a Lamborghini. But accomplishments come in different shapes, sizes, or different meanings to people, and that person just wants to be admired. They're sharing that with you, and the affection is just trivial. I mean, we are, for the most part, in a stressful situations all the time. We're constantly guarded. It's very difficult for us to put our armor down. That the last thing you want to do is get home and still have that shield and sword on your hand, because now you got to fight your partner. You want someone that
Right.
you can put your weapons down and lay your head, and be cared for in that way, in a loving and affectionate way. Everything else, and we talk about it, the guy will pay or will find a way to, to do things. They say that, a man will build that castle for the woman that they want to be with.
Right. I mean, listen, guys, I think that I chose an amazing person to represent.
I'm no expert by
To
any means.
represent, man.
I'm still
Because I'm
dating,
like,
so.
yeah, wow. I love everything I just heard. So, from your own experience, like looking back at everything that you've learned about dating or even just relationships, what's the biggest lesson you'd tell your younger self or any man out there trying to navigate love right now?
I said, number one thing, and I think it goes for both male and female, is uh, learn yourself, get to know
Mhm.
yourself. Because if you don't know yourself, then you don't know what to offer, what you bring to the table. And if you see what you bring to the table and you understand that, then you will be able to see what you need in that table. So then you can expect that from somebody else.
Right.
Where you can, like I said, do that, assessment we talked about earlier. Yeah, here are my tools, here are your tools. All right, we got two hammers. Well, we don't need two. We pick one, and what do we need? Oh, we don't have a screwdriver. Well, we'll have to go get one. So I think that is very important to get to know who you are, and that will help you see the other person for who they are.
Right.
Because you got to start with yourself. You got to love yourself. You got to be happy for
Mm.
yourself. And I think you have to get to know yourself.
Ain't that the truth?
If you don't start there, you don't have a solid, foundation to to start demanding or exploring. I think a lot of people just go by what they hear and their friends and what somebody else says. Be yourself, and being yourself is getting to know yourself.
That's powerful. I mean, it's so simple, right? And we hear like if you can't love yourself, you can't love anybody else, but it's the truth. Like it's the damn truth. Like you can't expect people to fill that void for you or to want to give 5% and have them give 95% to you.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have to really learn what it is again that you need, but also learn how to make yourself happy because like you said, we're not responsible for anybody's happiness, and that's so powerful, and there's so much truth in that.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't know how to make yourself happy, how do you expect somebody else to know how to make you happy?
Right.
So then you're gonna
Mhm.
build resentment to that other person because, well, you're not making me happy.
Right. Listen, y'all, listen. No, that's so good. Wow. All right. So before we close out, is there anything else you want to say to those that are listening right now?
I just say, give yourself the opportunity. Don't shut yourself down. Let someone else do that for you, and you learn. You learn from the experiences.
I couldn't agree more. All right. Didn't I tell you I was super excited for this conversation? So, but this is every time I get to talk to this guy, it's like again, he expands my way of thinking. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast and for, sharing this conversation with everyone else. It's very insightful and expansive. We appreciate it. Thank you,
No,
thank
thank you
you.
for having me, and hopefully this can help, someone see
Yeah.
things in a different way. Like I said, I'm not an expert. I'm also a client of the dating world, but I mean, I think it's just my perspectives, and
Right. But
sometimes we like to hear what somebody else has to say.
right, I think these raw conversations they're real, right? It's like I can go to an expert, but they're gonna tell me their ways, their formula, right?
Of
And that's
course.
great, but like that's not that one formula doesn't work on everybody. And
No,
so it's
definitely
it's
not.
these real raw conversations that are effective. So with that being said, remember that love isn't something we chase, it's something we're built for. Thank you guys. We'll see you later.